She came to the world's attention, a tiny girl performing her heart out. At 14 years old, Dominique was the youngest of the Magnificent Seven, the best team of women gymnasts ever fielded by the United States.
Gymnastics was my calling. I think it chose me in a lot of ways.
I still remember that the devil went down to Georgia.
When I was performing, I let go of all those burdens inside, and I truly loved it.
Jennifer was born without legs, a devastating birth defect that had led her natural parents to abandon her the day she was born.
But for Dominique Moceanu, the glory of Olympic gold masked heartache and abuse.
The childhood was challenging at times. I don't wish my experiences upon anybody.
And a domineering father who tore his family apart. But 2 years later, she was in the spotlight again, in court. Dominique shocked the world when she filed for emancipation from her parents.
This was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. It was even harder than competing in the Olympics.
On the stand, Dominique testified that her father Dimitri siphoned almost $1 million of her post-Olympic earnings. She also testified about physical abuse.
Did your father ever struck you?
Yes, in the face.
I was afraid for much of my childhood. I was afraid of my father for his violent temper. He had a short fuse.
Can't is not part of your vocabulary. If you just put your mind to it, you can do it.
And you believe that?
Yeah. That's the crazy thing is if you're never given limits, then you think, I can do anything.
And if she could do anything, she wanted it to be this, what she saw her hero, Dominique Moceanu, doing on TV. There was just one problem. Jennifer was born without legs, a devastating birth defect that had led her natural parents to abandon her the day she was born.
It bothered me to think that there was a little girl that was left at the hospital and she had no legs, so I thought she needed a family that would love her and take care of her.
Sharon and her husband Gerald brought her home to the tiny town of Hardinville, Illinois. Population 50, they say, if you count the dogs and cats. They decided to raise her like they raised their 3 healthy sons, with no limitations and just one simple rule. Never say the word
Can't.
You said, I want to be a tumbler. You didn't have legs.
Right. You kind of need those, most people think, to tumble.
Well, think again. The girl who wasn't allowed to say can't was on her way to becoming a genuine gymnastics champion. She started at 7 on the trampoline with her dad. And after a few falls, she got the hang of it. In time, she was competing. And soon after that, she was dominating. And by high school, Jennifer Bricker, are you ready for this, was the tumbling champion of the state of Illinois. Soon, Jennifer was pursuing other sports too. Even one you'd figure she had absolutely no chance to play well, until it turned out she could steal the ball, even grab a few rebounds.
And she could make baskets, too.
She didn't consider herself handicapped. She was talking to some friends one time, and one of them said something about her being handicapped. She said, well, I'm not handicapped. And they said, well, you have to use a wheelchair. She said, just to keep them getting dirty.
My adopted parents, I think the biggest blessing of my life was day one. Was the fact that I was left in the hospital, given up for adoption, and adopted by the specific parents that I was adopted by, because they gave me the gift of having a different perspective on life, a different outlook, being able to have confidence and self-esteem, and this outlook on life that, you know, you can do anything, and you just can, I feel like I can conquer anything. Nothing is too big, you know, because I know that your mind is such a powerful thing, and that your mind can transcend anything physical. And they gave that to me, and that was a huge gift.
Did you ever feel abandoned or unwanted, or any of those feelings that sometimes adopted children have?
You know, that's such an interesting question, and I find it fascinating because I never once had any feeling of that because I don't know, I had such an amazing childhood, and all of my memories of childhood are fun and happy and loving. Ironically enough, me being born this way in exact proportion is actually what allows me to do everything that I do physically. It's very fascinating.
Why don't you wear prosthetics? Was that a decision you had to make at some point?
I had prosthetics all through growing up, and it was always so unnatural for me. It was just something that, and again, the irony is that, prosthetics are made to help people make their lives easier. But for me, it makes my life more difficult because all the things that I love doing, I'm such an outdoor, athletic, adventurous person that I can't do any of those things with prosthetics. And if I do them with prosthetics, it's 10 times harder. So for me, it was never me. It was just more difficult and unnatural. So I never gravitated toward them.
Wow, that's very interesting. Was there a key moment, you think, where you realized, oh, I'm different from my brothers, your adopted brothers, or I'm different from the kids at school? Was there a moment like that, and how did you cope with that?
That is very interesting because I always, of course, knew I didn't have legs. And as a child, I mean, like, we're talking kindergarten here, I would explain to the kids. And my parents said it was so funny because here I am, this little tiny thing, and I'm explaining in such an adult way, that I was born so different and da-da-da and all this stuff. But it didn't actually click until much later in life because I competed in volleyball, basketball, softball, power tumbling. And I was competing in, with able-bodied athletes, not in a Paralympic sport or anything. And so, it drew a lot of attention, and people would come up to me, oh, you're such an inspiration. Oh my gosh, you're so amazing, and all this stuff. And it irritated me. I was so irritated by it. I didn't understand why are you making such a big deal about me when my friend is doing the same thing and you're not making a big deal about her? It didn't compute. The fact that I was having an impact on people, I had no idea until, I don't know, I was probably like 13 or 14, which sounds bizarre because it's very old, especially, I've always been a little more mature for my age. And so, but when you're not raised like that from your family, your coaches, or your teachers, that's what happens. That's, again, just reiterating how powerful your mind and your environment can be for the rest of your life.
I'm sure you're used to getting a lot of stares. How was that as a child with children your own age? And you said you explained it to them, but was that difficult to make friends?
In school, no, it wasn't like that at all. I grew up in a very tiny town, so the people that I started kindergarten with, I graduated high school with. So for, people in school, it was nothing. They grew up with me. There was no stares. There was no making fun of. There was no teasing. So great. So I was very lucky in that. Again, it just all goes back to being meant to be, being adopted into the family I was into, being in the town, the school. It was all to serve a purpose, for me to fulfill my purpose in life. And I think that's why there's no hard feelings. I know I was meant to be born without legs, given the talent specifically to do specifically what I'm doing now. Speaking, performing as an acrobat, being an aerialist. All of these things, have such a greater purpose than just for me. Yes, I enjoy what I do, and I'm so blessed to be able to travel the world and do what I love and get paid to do what I love. But the bigger picture is really the impact and that it's having on other people and the positive change, hopefully, that it's having on other people, just through the talents that were given to me.
I would certainly agree that you've had a positive change. I have very few doubts about that.
Thank you.
Out of all of your experiences, what has been the most powerful one that sticks with you?
Man, I gotta say, performing on the Britney Spears tour as a featured act, center stage, sometimes 20,000 people live, all around you, screaming, chanting, cameras going off all around you. I mean, your heart is just, you're alive. Every time I would go up, and we did about 40 shows with her, every time we entered from a lift underneath the stage, so the stage is above you, you get on this lift, you're slowly risen up into this sea of people all around you, the music's going off, everyone's freaking out, and you just know you're alive. And every time I was like, I love my life, I love my job, this is amazing. And it just puts you at a certain level where there will never be anything more intimidating than that as far as performing.
You say intimidating. Did you get stage fright frequently?
I don't get stage fright, but I guarantee you that first show I had with 20,000 people, I was out of my mind nervous. And I don't get nervous like that. But after doing all of those shows at that high of an intense level and that high of like visibility, where you know at any moment you could get fired, you could go whatever, and everyone's watching you and you just can't mess up, especially me. Because, I mean, I'm bouncing 20 feet in the air off of a trampoline that's already up. You know,
there's some risk involved.
There's some risk, yes. And so all of that pressure is on you, but having had that experience at such an early time in my performing career, it just skyrocketed my confidence and my performing level to a place where, you know, it's very fortunate for me to have that happen at an early time in my career, because it just set the bar where, wow, I can do anything.
And obviously you've used those attributes that you've inherited towards your public speaking career. Where did all that positive outlook come from such an early age, and then wanting to give that back to people?
Like I said, you know, it comes from, you know, I have my faith. My faith is everything. It's the foundation of who I am. It reiterates my whole purpose in life, me being born this way, and really trying to live my purpose and my path where, you know, like I said, it's not about me. It's really about I'm just being used to do good in the world, to try to do good for others. And, you know, my parents reiterated that as well. Such a strong family background. It really makes all the difference in the world. It's a direct line. Your childhood, my childhood, was a direct line to who I am as an adult. Absolutely. And I just feel so overwhelmingly blessed sometimes. It's a lot, because you think, wow, what did I do to deserve all of this? You know, this is amazing, and I'm very thankful for it. You know, I know that the quote, you know, to whom much is given, much is expected. That is definitely true, but at the end of the day, it's just such an overwhelming blessing. And people ask me, you know, how do you overcome so many obstacles? How do you do all this stuff? How do you not think of yourself as different? And it all stems back to my childhood, the environment that I was raised in, my family literally never focusing or dwelling on anything I couldn't do, but focusing on all the things I could do and how to make the things I wanted to do that everybody else was doing possible for me.
So what you're saying, the real inspiration are your parents.
Absolutely.
Because it takes special people to be able to handle that situation and just, you know, empower someone so much.
Absolutely.
Like that.
I mean, the fact that they had no hesitation at all. They wanted a baby girl. She didn't have legs, no big deal. And they raised me exactly the way they raised my 3 older brothers. Absolutely no limitations, no special treatment. My wheelchair was not in the house growing up.
It wasn't in the house?
No, not in the house at all. People find that very fascinating. To me, it was normal. But the only exception that was made was when I was really small, I couldn't reach the light switches. So my dad attached something to the light switch. But other than that, everything was normal. I had no special treatment. I went up and down the stairs just like everybody else in school.
So the house wasn't modified in any way?
But I think the moral of what I've learned from my life so far is that it truly is all in your head. Your mind can absolutely transcend anything physical. And I think that's what I took away so much from what my parents taught me. You know, when people meet me, within 5 minutes they say they forget that I don't have legs. And I think what that is that if I'm okay with myself, if I'm comfortable, and I don't see myself as different or disabled, then that automatically puts you at ease, or you know, to be comfortable. And I think that is something that whether you were born in a certain way or had an accident, that's a lesson that people can apply to their life. So if you're okay with it, it's really what you're putting out is how you're going to get treated back. And I think that's something that maybe took me a little longer to realize. And again, something I'm thankful for my parents, absolutely. I knew from as early as I can remember that I was adopted. I knew I was Romanian. I knew that most likely the reason I was put up for adoption was because I didn't have legs. And that was just a fact. I love the fact that I'm small and that I'm strong and I feel cute. Like I like being tiny. So I truly never had a hang up about that. You know, people asked me when I was younger a lot, if you could magically one day just have legs, would you do it? And so I really thought about it. Like, I actually thought, what would I actually do, you know? And every time I just kept coming back to the same answer, which was no. Because my whole identity and my entire purpose in life is dependent upon the fact that I don't have legs. So that's why I just always knew I was meant to be born like that, to do what I'm supposed to do in life. And so for me, that was just never even a thing. I mean, that's how I can affect change, and because it's not about me, it's about what can be done through me. If you're doing what you love, and not only doing what you love, but not for just yourself, for others, I mean, kind of negates a lot of everything else, you know?
One day at age 16, out of curiosity, Jennifer asked her mother a question.
Hey, is there anything that you, know about my adoption or biological family that you didn't tell me?
I said, okay, but you got to sit down. And she said, Mom, I'm always sitting. And she said, maybe you should sit down. I said, okay, let me sit down. And she said, well, what's the big deal? Just tell me what my last name is. And I said, well, that's the big deal. And she said, what do you mean? And I said, your last name would have been Moceanu.
I knew what that meant. I knew that Dominique Moceanu was my biological sister.
When she finally tracked Dominique down, Jennifer wrote her a letter. Inside the envelope were adoption papers, a photograph, and a stunning piece of news.
My biological last name is Moceanu. That line, I was just like, I can't believe this is happening. Everything was there. The evidence was there. Jennifer looked like the spitting image of my youngest sister, Christina.
What a moment for anyone to even speak to their childhood idol, but for their childhood idol to be their sister, that's something.
She told me she was an athlete in the letter. In fact, I was her inspiration to start tumbling and doing gymnastics. And then on the phone call, she goes, oh, by the way, I have no legs.
I mean, she's like, wait a minute, didn't you just tell me that you're an acrobat and you did all these sports? And I could just hear the wheels turning, you know?
And I said, who is this girl? Oh my God, how did she have this attitude to persevere in life and overcome every obstacle? And she's my sister.
Did you follow the Olympics in 1996?
Absolutely, particularly Dominique.
Come on, she was your favorite gymnast?
I'm not kidding. I wouldn't shut up about her.
Ironically, Jen's love of gymnastics had been the original key that would unlock the secret of her birth family. Although it was supposed to be a closed adoption, a clerical error allowed Sharon and Gerald to read Jen's birth name on the adoption papers, Moceanu. It was just a foreign-sounding name until they saw Dominique on TV.
When they told her name, it's like, whoa, that's the same last name. And then when they panned out in the audience and it showed the mother and the father, I realized that they were her parents and Dominique was her sister. We chose not to tell her because it wouldn't have been fair to Dominique and it wouldn't have been fair to Jen.
But years later, when Jen was 16, they finally told her.
I was just kind of in shock, like, who does this happen to? Whose childhood idol turns into their biological sister?
Does it feel like a coincidence that you're both these athletes and happen to be great gymnasts too?
I don't think it's a coincidence.
I don't think so.
I don't think it at all. It's nature versus nurture. Nature is so much more dominant than you could have ever made me believe before.
And yet, Jen credits the nurturing she received from her adoptive parents for making her who she is today.
When it comes to families, I hit the jackpot. And I'm so thankful for that because that is why I'm able to be where I'm at today.
Today, Jen is a professional acrobat and aerialist. And she's reconnected with both Dominique and her youngest sister, Christina. She's also met her biological mother.
Meeting Camelia was intense. And I asked her, did you ever think about me? Did you wonder what became of me?
That's a tough question.
Yeah, it's a tough question, but I felt like I kind of deserved it. Deserved a little bit of an explanation. I felt bad for her because I mean, she never even got to hold me.
Jen never got to meet Dimitri Moceanu, her father. He died from cancer in 2008. But from Camelia, she learned that Dimitri never gave his wife the choice to keep their baby girl. It seemed that the man who poured so much ambition into his golden child had little interest in raising a daughter with a disability.
And it was so foreign to me. All the secrecy, all the lies, all of this anger and sadness. I had come from the opposite, completely.
It is so ironic. Dominique, the Olympic golden girl, endured a painful childhood. And Jen, the baby born with no legs and given away at birth, ended up with a magical life.
Is there a moral to this story, Jen?
Having a good foundation of a family, parents that instill confidence and self-esteem in you is everything.
Wait, not yet, Charlie.
For her sister Dominique, that means giving her own children the blissful and happy childhood she always craved.
All those things have been able to bring me where I am today, and I feel I'm a strong woman. I can handle anything now.